Hello there, it's Tuesday, the 11th day of August. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. A very special welcome to our viewers at home and abroad and anyone joining us for the very first time. We have an informative show lined up just for you today, highlighting some of the initiatives and developments taking place right here at home. Stay with us. Jamaica Magazine continues after this break.
What's really inside your child's drink? Let's count it out. A 600 milliliter soda can contain 15 to 20 teaspoons of sugar, but the recommended daily allowance for children ages 2 to 18 is less than 6 teaspoons. And that 450 milliliter box drink, it can contain 12 to 15 teaspoons of sugar. Children under 2 should have no added sugar at all. So instead of reaching for sugary drinks, encourage your children to drink water, because when you know what's in the drink, making healthier choices is easy.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, August 11, 2026. Residents and business operators across several parishes are being advised to brace for prolonged water restrictions starting Monday, August 17. Affected parishes are Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Thomas, St. Mary, Portland, St. Anne, and St. Catherine. In a media release, the Ministry of Water, Environment and Climate Change says the prohibition notice will be issued for these parishes on August 12 by the National Water Commission, NWC. Under the orders, persons are not allowed to use water supplied by the NWC for non-essential or unusual purposes. These include irrigation or watering of gardens, lawns, grounds, and farms. Washing of vehicles with the use of a hose is also prohibited, so too are the watering or washing of roadways, pavements, garages, or outrooms. The NWC says any activity requiring excessive or unusual quantities of water is not allowed. During the period, there should be no refilling or supplying of ponds or swimming pools for use other than normal domestic services such as drinking, cooking, washing, bathing, and sanitation. At a recent press briefing, Portfolio Minister Matthew Samuda warned that a prohibition was likely as the island prepares for the new school year in September.
No, it is not that the systems and the storage are at critical levels today, but the rainfall that would normally come at the end of August is not projected to be experienced. And as a country that would have gone through significant learning loss associated with the COVID pandemic, the disruptions of Hurricane Beryl, Tropical Storm Raphael, and Hurricane Melissa, we simply cannot afford water to contribute to learning loss in September.
Jamaica and Ghana will formalize disaster support arrangements that will benefit both countries. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says the need was reinforced following humanitarian assistance from Ghana after Hurricane Melissa. During last week's state visit of the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, both leaders held bilateral talks on this and other matters.
We reiterated our agreement on the formalization of an arrangement through which such support can be mobilized at short notice in the case of future disasters. Not just having our friends in Ghana coming if there is a disaster in Jamaica or in the region, but to have that as well where Jamaica can be of assistance should there be a disaster in Ghana.
Dr. Holness says Ghana's extensive humanitarian outreach to Jamaica following Hurricane Melissa represents the first of its kind in the region and serves as a strong and positive example of South-South cooperation.
Jamaica has shown remarkable resilience in the face of that disaster, but that was strengthened by the friendship of our international partners. Ghana's humanitarian assistance, together with the invaluable contribution of the Ghana Army Corps of Engineers, has played a meaningful role in our recovery by supporting the reconstruction of roofs in the hardest hit communities of Akongpong, Black River, Middle Quarters, and Thornton in the parish of St. Elizabeth.
Prime Minister Holness expressed thanks on behalf of the people of Jamaica, particularly the residents of St. Elizabeth, whose communities directly benefited from the roof reconstruction efforts. In the meantime, President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, is calling for stronger cooperation between the African Union, AU, and the Caribbean Community, CARICOM. The President was addressing a special joint sitting of the Houses of Parliament at Gordon House last Tuesday.
We must deepen our collaboration within the United Nations and other multilateral institutions. And we must coordinate our positions on issues that will define the future of humanity. Whether the challenge is climate change, reform of the international financial architecture, food security, public health, or digital transformation, our voices will carry greater weight if we speak together.
The Ghanaian president argues that partnership between Africa and the Caribbean should no longer be defined solely by a shared past, but also by a shared future.
It is this conviction that inspired me to call the Accra Reset Conference recently. The Accra Reset reflects our belief that institutions governing the world must evolve to reflect the realities and aspirations of the 21st century. Too many developing countries continue to confront structural barriers to financing, unequal trading arrangements, and inadequate representation in global decision-making bodies. These inequities cannot define our future.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says the shared prosperity through accelerated improvement to our road network SPARK program is facilitating a strategic and systematic approach to improving the country's road infrastructure. Dr. Holness was speaking at the official opening of Retreat Drive and Passion Gardens in Bull Bay, St. Andrew. The roads were completed under the community road component of the program. Prime Minister Holness says overall there are approximately 340 roadways in varying stages of construction and completion.
Of the 340, 110 have been completed. And so the government is doing a pretty decent job. So what we're doing with the SPARK program is to renew, rebuild, reconstruct community roads to the highest standard. But even as we celebrate the work that is done, we are the first to acknowledge that it is not enough.
And finally, over 140 Jamaicans will receive national honors and awards this year in recognition of their outstanding contributions to the nation across various fields. Appointed members of the Order of Jamaica are Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, Richard Biles, Minister of Energy, Transport and Telecommunications, Darrell Vaz, noted communication strategist, philanthropist and educator, Donette Chingloy Chang, and former Minister of Education, Maxine Henry Wilson. Also included are former Minister of National Security, Derek Smith, Chairman of Stewart's Automotive Group, Diana Stewart, and President and Chief Executive Officer of Sagicor Group Jamaica, Christopher Zaka. 25 persons are listed to receive membership in the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander, and 41 individuals will be conferred with membership in the Order of Distinction in the rank of Officer. The appointments will take place on National Heroes Day, October 19, at which time 33 persons will also receive the Badge of Honor for meritorious service. Another 30 will be given the Badge of Honor for long and faithful service, and 4 persons are set to receive the Badge of Honor for gallantry. Members of the uniform groups will also receive Medal of Honor for meritorious service. 2 members of the Jamaica Information Service, JIS, are among this year's recipients of the Badge of Honor for meritorious service. They are Anthony Johnson, who is being recognized for service in the field of government communication, and Judith Hunter for her contribution to government development through public relations. Former JIS Human Resource Director Bernita Locke will also receive the Badge of Honor for meritorious service for her outstanding service in the fields of human resource management and industrial relations. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Jamaica and Ghana share a history shaped by ancestry, culture and resilience. On the heels of the state visit by Ghana's president, who joined Jamaica's 64th independence celebrations, we revisit how that connection has taken physical form at one of Jamaica's most important heritage sites.
There is much to celebrate at the Seville Heritage Park in St. Anne. Now, a new addition on the grounds is helping to tell an even older story, one that connects Jamaica to its African roots in a very real way. Two houses built by members of the Ghana Army Engineer Reconstruction Team now stand on the property, offering visitors a deeper connection to the African roots that remain such an important part of Jamaica's identity. The two mud houses are carefully constructed in the style of traditional African dwellings, along with an open kitchen area fitted with traditional cooking utensils. From the texture of the walls to the layout of the yard, the structures reflect elements of an African village. They have now become part of the Seville experience, adding something new while deepening the story that's already been told there. The structures were formally handed over during a ceremony in March of 2026.
We have come together with our Ghanaian family and have been able to rekindle the flames of earlier relationships and to rediscover the fraternity and solidarity of bonds that were never broken by the enslavers and colonizers.
The project is part of that connection, but it also goes deeper than that. It speaks to shared ancestry, cultural memory ties that have never been lost. This partnership didn't start here. The Ghana Army Engineer Reconstruction Team first came to Jamaica to support recovery efforts following Hurricane Melissa, working alongside local agencies to assist affected communities.
Jamaicans have benefited tremendously from the dedication and selfless service of your skilled engineers, carpenters, plumbers, welders, masons, medical team, everyone who has worked tirelessly alongside the Jamaica Defense Force. You have helped to restore not only shelter and comfort, but dignity and hope within affected families and their communities.
Sappers, the impossible we do at once. For a miracle, give us a little time. Ahua!
Following the deployment of the Ghana contingent in Jamaica on the 18th of December by His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama of our country, we came in with a number of 54 soldiers. All these 54 soldiers are people of varied artisanal, professional ethics from all levels, from the technical school, from the universities, and then all the academic ladder. We are very grateful that we had that opportunity to represent our country here.
The Ghanaian contingent has since completed its mission and departed Jamaica, following months of collaboration with local partners. But their work is still here. At Seville, these houses now stand as a reminder of history, of connection, and of a shared heritage that continues to shape Jamaica today.
For decades, the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, JCDC, has been creating platforms to identify, develop, and celebrate the artistic talents of Jamaicans across generations. At 73 years old, one artist is among those being recognized for his outstanding work.
The most outstanding intuitive artist award is presented to Nugent Hewitt from the parish of Manchester.
6 gold medals and 1 silver. That was the tally for 73-year-old visual artist Nugent Hewitt at the 2025 Jamaica Cultural Development Commission JCDC Visual Arts Competition. It's a performance that earned him the title of Most Outstanding Artist, proving that creativity only deepens with time. For the Manchester native, it was a moment decades in the making.
I feel so good. I'm over the moon.
Open to artists of all ages, the competition celebrates expression through paint, texture, and imagination. For Nugent, that expression is deeply personal, drawn from memory, lived experience, and quiet observation.
Anything I put my hands to, it comes in as if it turned to gold in a mysterious way, which I very much appreciate.
Several of his works reflect moments that stayed with him over time.
Some lady used to make, we call it hat, in the workshop with JCDC long time ago, and I remember that. And I used to tease this lady.
That memory inspired one of his winning pieces, a portrait of a woman looking exhausted in a hat-making workshop. What began as a playful recollection is now creation, resulting in gold. As that piece gives testament to, Nugent's relationship with the JCDC stretches back decades.
I enter JCDC from 1974, which the first time I entered with 2 pieces, and I got 2 golds. And it was a heaven for me. I said, but this place, man, is a place that I must revisit.
And that he did, revisiting ever since, collecting multiple awards across categories, and building a reputation for consistency and excellence. But his love for art began long before competitions and accolades.
I used to say, draw in my exercise book. Half page is for do schoolwork, and half page is to draw. I used to draw mostly cowboy and Aston Cambridge cars. The girls them always pay me to draw for them because they can't draw. And then we say, yes, it's a good thing. So I continue.
Hewitt went on to teach, helping students develop their skills and even prepare for the JCDC competition like he has done for so long. But creativity for him does not stop at paint and canvas. He also lives in rhythm.
You are drifting away from me like a ship without a captain. Oh, you're drifting away from me like a ship without a captain.
A singer and drummer, he finds joy in music, another outlet for storytelling and self-expression. And when he isn't teaching, painting, or performing, there's one more place that fuels his passion.
Gardening is my mainstay, my baby, my everything. I gain inspiration walking into my garden. I like to look at the flowers then, especially when they just come out, start to bloom and so on, and the young succulent plants and so on. It speaks to me.
While 2025 marked a standout moment, Nugent Hewitt's story is not defined by a single year or achievement. At 73, it is a journey shaped by consistency, creativity, and a deep connection to creating.
I want people to remember me as a person, a humble person just going through with a vast wealth of talent and not just have it in commonplace, but a high standard.
For details on how to enter the JCDC Visual Arts Competition or learn about other cultural programs, visit the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission's website at www.jcdc.gov.jm.
For many people, having a safe place to call home is something they take for granted. But for some vulnerable Jamaicans, homelessness remains a daily reality. The government has been implementing a range of programs aimed at providing shelter, support, and a pathway to a better quality of life. Here's more.
Homelessness is a pressing issue that affects communities worldwide. The realities faced by individuals and families are complex, with varying factors contributing to the crisis. The homeless population in Jamaica is approximately 2,000 persons, and efforts are being made by the government to provide essential support and create lasting solutions. This is being carried out by the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development through the Poor Relief Department. Targeted support services to the homeless include night shelters and drop-in centers located across the island.
So at the Poor Relief Department, we serve the persons who are those that are considered to be the most vulnerable of the society, and by that I mean persons who are without a means of subsistence, persons who cannot afford to take care of themselves financially. They are not able to provide a roof over their head, they are not able to provide shelter, they are not able to provide their own medication.
On a daily basis, we serve up to 35-40 persons. We have more males coming in than females, so you will find maybe about 25 males for the day. They are able to get breakfast, lunch, and of course supper. They're able to take a bath, change their clothing, and of course we have recreational activities also for the days.
Presently, we have about 45 persons on the homeless program in the Port Antonio area district. In the town of Port Antonio, they have different areas that we can find them. We call those areas hotspots. And we also service off-bay street persons.
We have street feeding as well. So you'll have the poor relief officers who will go out on the streets and they will look for the persons there, because sometimes you will find them in a little corner. Sometimes you'll find them at the bus park. So they will go out, give them a meal, a word of encouragement for the day.
Also, in collaboration with the health center, once per week, personnel from the health center visits the rehab center where they medicate residents and give medical checkups.
There are 11 drop-in centers across the island, and persons can simply walk in to access the services. As for night shelters, there are 2 in Kingston: the Marie Atkins Night Shelter and the Desmond Mackenzie Transitional Center for the Homeless. You can also find night shelters in Ocho Rios, Falmouth, Westmoreland, St. James, and Manchester. These facilities offer meals and nightly accommodations to persons in need. Work is being done to increase the number of these facilities.
So the shelter is going to be for anybody who is on the street. So once you're on the street and you need a place to stay for the night, you can come in.
That is something that we are looking forward to, in that we would have more facilities, we would be better able to serve these people that we really are responsible for, because now with the drop-in center we'll be able to provide more facilities for them. We probably at some point will be able to have a social worker coming in, at some point we'll be able to have a doctor.
To foster encouragement, hope, and a sense of belonging, homeless persons who use the facilities are engaged in different activities.
We have 3 days for the week that we have specifically for recreational activities. On a Monday, it is educational day. So persons must come in and learn something, whether it's a word or anything that is educational. On a Monday, they will learn that. On a Wednesday, it is games day. We have where they play dominoes, football, any form of games. We have persons on the outside who will come in, like Moon Palace Foundation, Sandals, and will also play games with them. So this will make them feel like they are still a part of society.
The need for skills training is essential to the process.
So we are hoping that Hard Trust can come on board with us and at least try to help some of them, in skills area. We're also hoping that maybe some retired teachers or so can come in, and because quite a bit of them, they need a little bit more.
Key to the rehabilitation and integration of homeless persons is transitional facilities.
Welcome to the Desmond Mackenzie Transitional Center for the Homeless.
There are currently 5 facilities that offer structured rehabilitation services located in Kingston, Portland, St. James, and Manchester. These places help individuals to develop skills and coping mechanisms to allow for reintegration into society.
These individuals, they are socially assessed at the facility, and then we take them to a public health facility for them to be medically assessed. They can gain admission to this facility after an assessment is done, and also based on availability of space. In our assessments, our poor leave officers go out and do investigation based on the information presented to us. Whenever we assess the clients, we then create a unique case plan, treatment plan for these individuals. We try to get these individuals to set goals, and when they set these goals, we monitor them. We assist them, we liaison with other agencies, other stakeholders. Looking at the whole person, we will know whether or not these persons are educated, if they need training, what it is that we need to do for them. Persons who are already certified, then we log into the job markets and we get them the interview. We cannot get them the job, so what we will do is get them the interview, provide coaching for these individuals, and majority of them, I would say almost all cases, when they go, they nail the interview. Once they secure the employment, we encourage saving and working towards the ultimate goal, which is independent living and reintegration back into society.
Transitional facilities are 24-hour operations that house individuals for up to 2 years.
We try to make them feel comfortable and at home. We are involved with them, as in we play games, we partake in other social activities, we read to these individuals, we sing with them, and we watch television, current affairs, we have regular discussions, so as to let them feel like this is a family and this is somewhere that even though you fell on hard times and your circumstances made you end up on the road, it's not the end for you, but there is still hope. So this facility basically restores hope for the homeless individuals, the homeless population.
The resilience of night shelters and the welcoming embrace of drop-in and transitional centers, supported by the government's vision and dedication, exemplify a testament to our collective responsibility, providing solace, warmth, and a glimmer of hope to those in need, ensuring that no one faces the darkness of homelessness alone.
And that's a wrap for today's edition of Jamaica Magazine. Happy birthday to everyone celebrating today, and to those marking a special anniversary. We wish you all the very best. If you're visiting Jamaica for the very first time, welcome. And to those returning, welcome back home. Remember to visit our website in the meantime at jis.gov.jm for more news you can use. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Stay safe.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.